had a question left on a YouTube video that said, why do tags exist if we have function blocks? And whilst I kind of understand where we're coming from with this, they are two very fundamentally different things. So here I have a function block, two instances, one for pump 1 and one for pump 2. And I have a data block, which currently has nothing in it. And this is being called in main. And I obviously have a PLC with some I/O. Now, if I go into my data block and write pump 1 fault signal, I can then use that on the front of this function block. So I can say data block, pump 1 fault signal. And that's fine. And I can do the same for the rest of the interface as well. So now we have our interface populated. And that's great. When we first look at this, it's structured. We have our signals coming from a data block being fed into our function block, but this still doesn't have any data being passed to it. And that's where tags come in. So we need tags to link between physical I/O and our software environment. We go and have a look at the device configuration for our PLC. We can see that I have some I/O cards here. And this one here is a digital input card, which I've called S2. And if I have a look at the properties for this card, and I have a look at the I/O tags, we can see that here I have some tags. They're currently in the default tag table, and I like to call my cards, or my I/O tags, sorry, by their card position in the PLC. So this is slot 2, and then each channel of the slot, so 0 through to 15 for this particular slot. And I allow TIA Portal to just give it the address or the next available address. So because this is the first I/O card, it has the address of I0.0 all the way through to 1.7. And here I have my fault signal feedback for each pump. So this is where we link between physical wire on the front of our PLC and somewhere that we are tying that signal to an actual fixed memory address that's associated with that card. And that is the big difference between a tag and a variable in our PLC. So if we go back to main, what I can do instead is I can reference quote S2.0, and this will be my pump 1 fault signal. And you can see that it gives us a physical address above because it's actually assigned to a memory area, whereas this one is symbolically assigned to data block 1. So it doesn't have a fixed memory allocation like this signal does. This one is tied to the address I0.0 and will always be referenceable by I0.0. So let's go ahead and update our interface. And this has now tied our physical data addresses to our function blocks. So you might ask the question, what's the point in the data block? And this is where I would do things slightly differently. And instead of putting the tags directly on the front of the function block, I would actually write the tags into the data block and then use the data block. And the reason for that is it's called a mapping layer. So I would create a dedicated block, a function or a function block, and I would map my signals from my tags into a data block and then the data block to a function block. And the reason for that is the data block to function block is fixed and can stay the same between projects if I want to reuse it, but I'm free to change the tags to data block if I obtain my information a different way. Maybe it comes over a network in another project, or a customer is pushing data into the PLC, or we've changed it so we're coming via an ASI or OPC UA framework. And really, it just gives us that flexibility to be able to change where our information is coming from without having to revisit every single one of these objects in our project. So that's why I like to also include a data block and move the information there. But going back to the original question of why do tags exist if we have function blocks? Tags exist to connect physical signals into our PLC, and then function blocks serve as a location to run logic, to create instances, interfaces, and to basically containerize what we want to do. They are not really the same thing in any way, but I can kind of see why the question's been asked. So hopefully that gives some insight into the differences there, and also gives you a bit of structure to follow going forwards.